Tamales are like the perfect Christmas meal. Now stay with me for a minute, think about it. They can be wrapped just like a present and tied off with corn husks like a bow. You can fill masa dough with red and green ingredients like tomato, scallions, zucchini, and cilantro, or parsley. Serve them with red or green tomato or tomatillo salsa and green guacamole with bits of red tomatoes. Seriously, what a holiday looking plate. A few years ago, my husband and I started eating tamales for Christmas because, well, we just love the colors and flavors, and truthfully, it was the corn husk gift wrap that sold me. I'm really excited to share this recipe with masa dough that is rich, moist, and full of flavor thanks to the butter, vegetable broth, cumin, and chili powder. The flavorful filling is rich and full of depth from the veggies, spices, cilantro, or parsley, and butter. Let's check out my new traditional Christmas dish. For the ingredients, you'll need a package of corn husks. For the masa dough, you'll need masa harina, also known as corn flour, not cornmeal, baking powder, salt, cumin, chili powder, vegetable broth, and butter. For the filling, you'll need neutral oil like avocado or canola, butter, zucchini, scallions, also known as green onions, garlic cloves, fresh cilantro or parsley if you don't like cilantro, Roma tomatoes, lime juice, cumin, chili powder, salt, and cheddar cheese. Corn husks are dry, so we need to soften them to use them in our tamales. So depending on the size of your corn husks, you may have a really large one like this or a small one like this. If you're using a small one, you might need 2 to create your tamales. If you have a large one, you'll just need 1. So you'll need anywhere from 25 to 50 corn husks. I just pretty much put a package in a large saucepan like this. I always boil water in a kettle, and then I pour the water over the corn husks, and as they soften, they'll shrink down into the pan. I prefer boiling water because it just kind of softens them more quickly. You can use plain old hot tap water, and this should be fine. It just may take them a little bit longer to soften, but you've got a lot to do between now and the time you're gonna fill them anyway, so it's fine. If you find your husks are too far out of the water, sometimes I'll take a plate or something that's heat proof, like a glass plate here, then just stick it on top of the corn husks, and as you can see, it weighs them down in the water. And then now we're ready to go, so we're just gonna set these aside for about 30 minutes. To make the masa dough or the tamale dough, we're gonna mix all of our dry ingredients in a medium bowl. We're gonna start with 290 grams, which is 2.5 cups of masa harina. Masa harina is a very fine corn flour. It's not cornmeal because it needs to be really fine, and it's usually mixed with a little bit of lime during the preparation of making the corn flour. Masa is a Spanish word for dough, and harina is a Spanish word for flour. To the masa flour, we're gonna add 4 grams, which is 1 teaspoon of baking powder, along with 4.5 grams, which is 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. To that, we're gonna add 4 grams, which is 1.5 teaspoons of ground cumin. This is where all that flavor comes in, along with 4 grams, which is 1.5 teaspoons of chili powder. Pretty looking dry mixture, huh? And now we're just gonna give all of this a quick stir. We're gonna make a well in the center of our dry ingredients here. And we're gonna pour in 531 milliliters, which is 2.25 cups of vegetable broth. You could use chicken stock, you could use beef broth, you can use whatever you have or whatever you want. Let's give this a gentle stir to keep everything in the bowl, and we want to stir it until we have formed a dough. Your mixture should be moist. Since there's no gluten in here, it's not going to have like a stretchy dough, so this is about the right texture that you need for a moist tamale that's not too dry. The last bit of flavor we're going to add to our masa dough is butter. Yes. Butter makes everything a little bit better, at least it makes it richer, right? Your butter needs to be soft because we're gonna whip it. If it's not, just do a quick dice like I'm doing here. You're gonna stick it in the microwave just to soften it. We do not want to melt it. Try 10 seconds first and then add more if you need it. 10 seconds was just right for me. So then just take an electric mixer, just whip the butter until it's nice and soft and fluffy. Butter is nice and whipped. We're gonna take our masa mixture here, and we're just going to spoon it into the whipped butter. I'm gonna start by folding in the butter just to get it going and release it from the edge of the bowl, but then we just wanna make sure it gets mixed in really well, so you'll wanna stir it. You shouldn't see any streaks of butter. This is a nice smooth texture dough. That's what we're looking for tamales. It's time to make the filling, and we have our mise en place all ready to go, meaning our ingredients are all measured out. We want to heat a 12-inch skillet on medium-high heat. To that, we're going to add about 1 tablespoon of a neutral oil like avocado or canola, and 1 tablespoon of butter. I like to use both butter and oil, as butter adds flavor and oil maintains moisture. You know your skillet is hot enough when your butter is sizzling in the pan. So then just swirl the grease around the pan. Okay, if you want to ensure that your oil and butter are hot enough, place a piece of zucchini or vegetable. If it sizzles around it, that means that the oil is hot enough. We're going to begin by sauteing the zucchini, and we're going to add 1 zucchini that's finely chopped to small dice here. We want all of our vegetables small dice because we're only going to put about a tablespoon in each tamale, so we want to make sure we can get every single bite of every flavor we have. We're going to add 4 scallions, which are green onions. We're adding both green and white parts. We have 4 minced garlic. We're going to saute all of this for just a couple of minutes. We're going to add 4 grams, which is 1.5 teaspoons of ground cumin. Also 4 grams, 1.5 teaspoons of chili powder. Turn down the heat as you need to so nothing burns. We're going to add 1/2 teaspoon, which is 3 grams of salt. And we're just going to let this cook for about 30 seconds, just until everything is fragrant. We're adding 2 ounces of chopped cilantro. If you do not like cilantro, you can always use parsley. And 2 small diced Roma tomatoes. Given the season, if you're unable to find fresh tomatoes or you do not like the way they look in the store, you can always use, instead of that, 1 14.5 ounce can of petite diced tomatoes. But we're using fresh today, so I do not need the can. Just make sure your canned tomatoes are well drained if you use them. We're also going to add, for a little bit of freshness, 1/2 of a lime. So this is lime juice, and it's 1 tablespoon, which is 15 milliliters. We just want to stir everything together. So we want to give this a few minutes on the stove. Look at those beautiful Christmas red and green colors. Turn off your heat. Remove the skillet from the heat. We're going to add 4 ounces, which is 1 cup of cheddar cheese. Go ahead and stir the cheese into the mixture. You can leave the mixture in the skillet. I prefer to place my mixture in a separate bowl. It's less space on the counter. Filling is all ready. It's assembly time. This step takes a little time, but it's fun and fantastic to do with others. Gather your friends and your kiddos. This is a great group holiday activity to do while listening to Christmas music or telling stories. Sit at the kitchen table, dining room table. You want to go ahead and drain off your tamale husks. Our tamale husks are now soft and pliable, so we can use those to wrap our tamales. And if you want, you can sit them on a towel or a paper towel because they are wet. I don't have a steamer, so I'm going to steam my tamales in a metal colander and a large pot. So I'm going to go ahead and get this set aside, so as I make the tamales, I can just put them in my pot. Okay, so if you're doing this with a bunch of people, you could place the corn husks in bowls, set them on the table. You could take your masa, put it in separate bowls with spoons, set it on the table. Take your filling, put it in separate bowls, it's on the table, and then everybody sort of has their little own station that can create the tamales. This is a lot of work, but it's great to do with other people. Since I have a big corn husk here, we're gonna start by just using 1 for making 1 tamale. I'm gonna grab a spoon of masa, place it in the center of the husk. Now, I, again, like to use a wet dough, so I keep a bowl of warm water beside my tamale so that the tamale dough doesn't stick to my fingers. And you want enough dough so that you have about a 1/4 inch thick on your corn husk, and you want it about the size of a small corn tortilla. And these aren't meant to be very big. Okay, so I have a nice blob there of masa. So I'm gonna take about a tablespoon, and I'm going to put the filling down the center so that it stays enclosed in the masa dough. You don't want too much because we want to be able to close that masa around the filling. So then you want to fold your corn husk over so that the dough meets and it encloses that filling. Okay, like so. And you need to continue to fold the corn husk over and enclose it like this. If you're in a hurry, just simply fold up the bottom like so, and then just place it in your steamer basket or wherever you're going to put it for the moment. And as you stack them around, the tapered end will stay closed there because you don't want the filling to fall out or the masa to ooze out while it's cooking. So something else you could do, you could fold both ends down like so. Take another large corn husk, tear off a strip. It's a little bit big there. You could do this before you get started and have a lot of these sitting on the side. Then you can make a little present. So wrap that strip of corn husk around your tamale, and then you're going to tie a little knot to create that bow looking present for the gift. And that would represent like your Christmas gift. Then just place that where you're going to steam them so that it sits upright. Here's another one I created where I only did half of the taper. I didn't close the top, I just closed the bottom, but then I put my little bow around it, and then we're gonna keep going. If you have small husks like these two are really small, then you just overlap them where the thicker portions are in the center. We're gonna do this, follow the same technique. Just take a spoon of masa, flatten it out like the tortilla, then add a little spoon of filling down the center, and then again fold your masa over to where your masa touches all around that filling. Okay, completing the fold over with your corn husks, and then fold in the tapered edges or the ends, and then tie it off with a strip of corn husk. And voila, you have your little present of a tamale. Continue until you've used up all your tamale dough and all your filling. I have a little bit of filling left. Since this is already cooked, you can go ahead and eat it now if you want. Just use maybe some crackers. If you've got some soft tortillas or hard tortillas, then just make this into a little nice snack or lunch. If you have a fair number of corn husks left over, you can reuse these. Just lay them out on like a cookie sheet, separated, so that they dry out and they will harden again just like they did before, like you bought them in the store, and you can use them the next time you make tamales. Okay, my tamales are all made. I have about 25 in here. So if you have large husks, you really only need about 27 or 28 so that you can make the little bows if you want to. I've got some smaller looking ones only because there are 2 husks. It's steaming time. So we cook the tamales by steaming them. I love tamales because these are a make-ahead dish. In fact, the tamales you see me make today are the actual ones we will eat on Christmas Day. Regardless of when you eat these, you could go ahead and cook them now. To a large stock pot, you want to add about 2 inches of water to the bottom of the pot because this is how we're going to start the steam. The main thing to remember is that you just want a significant amount of water in there, but not so much that it's going to touch the bottom of your steamer basket. So when I put my basket in there, I've already measured it. The bottom of my basket does not touch the water level. I don't have a lid to keep them tight, so I'm going to cover mine with foil to create the steam. My tamales are covered all around, even the tall ones. And my steamer basket is such that I can lift it and be able to see if my water is still in the pot and hasn't evaporated as my tamales are steaming. Go ahead and turn your burner on to medium-high heat. My water has begun to boil, as you can see there. So we're going to turn down the heat to where we have a constant simmer. We want to set the timer for 90 minutes, and you need to let them cook for the full hour and a half. Check your water level about every 20 minutes and make sure it hasn't evaporated too much. If it has, I always keep a kettle of water next to it, and it's not boiling water, it's just kettle with water in it, and I just pour water in it till I get to that 2-inch level again, and then continue to let it cook. 90 minutes are up. I just want to show you how much water is still in my pot, and I never added additional water. That's the same water that I put in to start with. So my water actually didn't really evaporate that much, so you may not have to. Now we need to see if they're done. Let's take one of these out. You can either untie it, or you can use some scissors and cut the tie. And we just want to open it just to see if the masa, notice that, it's firm to the touch. It comes off the corn husk easily. That tells us that our tamales are done. So you can go ahead if you choose and remove them and then just place them on some racks to cool, unless you intend on eating them now. Let's take a look on the inside. Look how nice and pretty it is on the outside. You've got your little bow. So to remove the bows, if you want, you could do this before you give these to your guests, but they also just slide off. So this is one I use 2 corn husks on. Okay, notice it pulls right off. Now these you just discard. You don't need these anymore. Notice it's definitely firm, so it's definitely cooked. I like that it's moist. This is not a dry tamale. Let's get a nice cut into this. On the inside, you can definitely see all the vegetables. So if you had meat on the inside, you would be able to see the shredded meat, whatever it is that you had. Just notice how easy it just breaks apart. Okay, that just tells us that this is a soft, moist tamale. The outside, it has dark coloring. You've got the cumin and the chili powder to add to that color. You don't have a lot of thick dough here, so you're gonna get more of that internal flavor. When we cut it on the inside, notice you can see all of the ingredients. Got a little bit of the red from the tomatoes, the green from the zucchini, the cilantro, and of course you have the flavors from the spices. This is an all-around good, holiday-looking tamale. Easy to eat, soft, flavorful, and moist. You can serve these immediately or eat these later. Since we will eat these later, I'm going to allow them to cool completely on wire rack. Then I will place them in a freezer bag and freeze them. On Christmas Eve, I'll remove the tamale bag from the freezer, place it in the fridge for the tamales to thaw. Then on Christmas Day, I will reheat them same way I steamed them in the steamer basket with water for at least an hour up to 90 minutes until they are heated through. After Christmas Day for leftovers, we simply heat them unwrapped in the microwave. And that's it. Woo! Who knew you could eat a present for your main course meal? Turn these into vegan tamales by using plant-based butter and vegan cheddar cheese. They are really good with those options. Make them meat-filled using your favorite shredded beef, pork, or chicken. Regardless, you can just imagine all the sides and toppings to add to your tamales to really enhance that holiday table. If you give this recipe a try, I hope it adds family fun, amplifies your holiday festivities, and fills your home with love and laughter this holiday season. Until next time, go bake the world.